them first in French and then in English. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I will
Go ahead.
不行，你再来。I can do that in Mandarin first, and then you translate it into French.
From Mandarin?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
He has been translating Guy Hocquengham's messages all of his life.
Anyway, I know.
You know already.
I know what you will say, so I can translate.
Don't do that. Don't presume. Okay. I believe there are other questions, of course, from around, but also from our students here. So I really would like them also to have chance to engage and intervene. But I would like to start. First of all, in fact, in Taiwan, I think there are various, many, we could call it underground, or we could call it daily experiments of different forms of existence for lesbians and gay. Yeah, different forms already. Okay, not on after this legal issue or this referendum. For example, Professor Cai you met in Kaohsiung, Cai Yanling. Yeah, they have their farm, lesbian farm. They work and live together, lesbians, and they live with the farmers. They practice and exercises the life of the farmers with the local people, and also they engage with migrant workers, and they build up their market. So that is a friendly economic mode. Okay, but this type of farm or experiment existed in different ways throughout Taiwan. Okay, not to mention individual families. Okay, we don't count them. So, of course there are. The second thing is that we cannot say Taiwan has not really gone through emancipation in the 80s. Okay, there's an anti-martial law movement lasted actually throughout the decades. Okay, that's an island-wide in all forms, theatrical or literary or environmental pollution and gender issue. It's all there. Okay, in the name of anti-martial law, anti-dictatorship, but that's a long process of different forms of liberation and emancipation. We cannot say Taiwanese has not gone through, okay, this period. All right. But why do people want to use this so-called human right rhetoric? Okay, several things. For one thing, if the law doesn't change, I think there are several things. For one thing, the law, if it can be changed, it does not push people to get married. But it is only a gesture or an act to move against the prohibition or suppression of people who cannot have that option or alternative to make their decision. Okay, so this is not to normalize same-sex marriage, but to go in a negative way to challenge the existing law. The second, related to that, is that if the law is not passed, then their partners, when they are near death, for example, deathbed, then the partner cannot go there to take care of them, not to mention other related issues. They are not families. But to me, I think the most important thing is that to challenge the law is to challenge the juridical ideology, the commonsensical mentality. If that can be challenged and changed, then the elder people, the parents, their mentality can be altered and changed. They feel they could adapt because their daughters, their grandchildren, they are gay and lesbian couples. They don't know how to make their judgment. As soon as this law can be passed, and they could think that, it is okay, we can accept it, right? So this juridical ideology that shapes the citizen mentality and legitimation, that has to be challenged. Okay. Otherwise, there's always this law against them. Then, even though they have their private practices, their experiments, they cannot really be openly accepted in public. Right? So this is why it is something that has to be gone through. But then why human rights? We have to know that during that referendum and during that period of time, there are so many different forces going on, different currents. Even for this government, DPP government, those group of people who propose that case, they know they are using a strategic move because DPP from the very beginning make use of this human rights discourse to fight against KMT, the nationalist government. So human rights for them rhetorically is a performative strategy. And in that case, their party cannot really say no, right? And we cannot really think DPP is a black, iron block of the same will. They are different. They are also fundamentalists. Yeah, we think this DPP, they are essentialists and fundamentalists. Okay, also church people. But during that period of time, they are really fighting against the right-wing nationalist government and also the KMT government who proposed the deal. And also the church people. The church people, yeah, right, they, in the name of I love my family and so on, all this to safeguard this nation. They are very active out front. They are there in every railway station, every public space to campaign against this proposal for same-sex marriage. All right. So, so those are the anti-same-sex marriage nationalists. Okay, that's a norm. So to challenge this juridical stipulation, for one thing, very importantly, is to challenge both this fundamentalists in DPP party and also the fundamentalists and nationalists in KMT government. So uplifting this law is uplifting the ban. It is not to normalize the marriage. Okay. So I think I more or less said my basic point of view. Yeah, but I would say that I agree, I appreciate very much of your proposals, everything. Okay, but I think if you want to comment on Taiwan's situation, you need to go native. you need to interview and get to know more gay friends, gay communities, lesbian communities, and know what they are really dealing with. Okay, yeah, right. Yeah. Sure. No, I really feel sorry that we didn't get enough audience here because in our campus we have many gay and lesbian students. And next door in Tsinghua University, there are also a huge group of gay and lesbian communities, and they also already discussed 2-3 years ago about abandoning families. They don't need families. Okay, they actually appropriated the discourse from 100 years ago in Lei Qing dynasty, a feminist version, 和正, okay, 毁家会废婚. And that discourse was also shared by Central University, their studies of gender and sexuality. There's a huge group of people talking about gay and lesbian and gender issue. Yeah. So, yeah, we didn't think clearly that if we could do French, Chinese, Mandarin interpretation, we could maybe involve more people, yeah, to come. Yeah. But you can trust that there will be a huge audience who will like you. So stay, come here and stay for 3 years. Do your work.
Yes.
Merci déjà pour ces remarques. Oui, et pour ça que j'ai adopté un ton très prudent dans l'intervention quand il s'agissait de Taïwan. J'ai voulu évoquer quelques pistes de recherche, mais en même temps je suis bien conscient que ça ne pourrait pas remplacer une approche sociologique des effets, etc. Et également historique. J'avais vu en particulier dans le livre qui m'a un petit peu aidé pour voir des choses sur Taïwan, j'avais vu effectivement qu'il y avait eu dans les années 70-80 un certain nombre de mouvements gays et lesbiens qui étaient liés justement à des mouvements féministes aussi, qui étaient très influencés par des théories occidentales fréquemment, et donc qui avaient effectivement, j'avais bien repéré ça si vous voulez, déjà des mouvements qui pouvaient croiser un certain nombre de revendications occidentales. Donc ça existait effectivement à cette époque-là, mais je ne savais pas du tout quelle importance accorder à de tels mouvements. Est-ce qu'ils étaient marginaux dans les villes, est-ce que c'était quelque chose de plus vaste, etc. Donc je ne savais pas trop quel poids attribuer à ces mouvements-là. Alors par ailleurs, oui, je comprends bien dans ce cas-là que le mariage puisse valoir, mariage entre personnes de même sexe, puisse valoir dans une optique stratégique. Et ce qui serait intéressant justement maintenant, c'est de voir si cette stratégie va en effet être payante, ou est-ce qu'au bout du compte, il va y avoir une possibilité de se prendre au jeu de cette manière, et au fond, est-ce que la stratégie va demeurer une stratégie? Est-ce que les individus voulant recourir au mariage vont-ils effectivement utiliser cela comme un levier pour changer le regard sur les gays et lesbiennes à Taïwan, ou bien est-ce qu'ils ne vont pas faire du mariage lui-même une nouvelle manière d'exister qui, du coup, ferait perdre à ce mariage de personnes de même sexe sa teneur stratégique. Est-ce que ce n'est pas justement un risque éventuel? Enfin, en tout cas, au moins, ça fait partie d'analyses tout à fait intéressantes à conduire.
Alain should do that in English so that we don't need to go through Chinese, Mandarin, and English. Yeah. Or all right.
简单换的，他是说他接受就是接受这个你的意见，然后他在处理这些东西的时候是会很小心，然后他是有读过60年代就是历史跟社会的一些书，那他也知道就是同性运动跟女权运动、女性主义相关，那这些运动也是跟西方有关。然后另外在同婚的在这个战略的观点之下，就是说这个观点事实上是可以有点就是可以有点就是有点怎么说游戏的观点然后就是说最主要就是说同婚是否改变了台湾就是说是否是一个新的一个存在方式，然后就是说同志呢不要在同婚上就是迷失自己大概是这样。
对啊，就是说到底就像我们刚刚讲的同性恋婚姻的诉求本身就是一个抵抗运动，对不对？无论他是用人权或是要争取司法的部分，它这个本身就是在台湾的社会的意义上，它本身就是一个抵抗运动。但是问题，他现在的问题是说，好，当然这个同性恋同性恋婚姻的这个同婚的婚姻平权的法过了。到底是同性恋运动已经达到了一个它的运动现阶段的一个顶峰了，就是他已经拿到那个冠军奖杯了，还是说他会面对，就像他刚刚讲的，是会进入一个规范化的生活，还是说他会开启另外一个，因为它是一个抵抗运动的成功，他会开启另外一个新的生活形态吗？就是说它是婚姻，但是它是跟异性恋婚姻截然不同的生活形态吗？这个其实是我们可以观察。
Basically, Alain accepts the opinions from Professor George Liu, and then he is also being very careful about the analysis. For example, he has read something as some sociology and history stuff in the 1960s, and also he is aware of the relation between the homosexual movement and also the feminist movement in the Western context. And talking about the strategy of same-sex marriage, we have to think about if it really changed the forms of existence in Taiwan. And it is to be reminded that homosexual persons should not lose themselves in this same-sex marriage. No matter in what circumstances, the pursuit of the same-sex marriage in Taiwan is indeed a resistance movement. However, since the law has passed, whether this movement will move on as just a peak of the final stage of this movement and entering a normalization of modes of life, or in the other hand, would it open up a new mode of living? That is, the homosexual partners may be living a marriage that is different from the ways that heterosexual people live a marriage. For this point, we should keep observing.
Okay, so I'll ask the next question. So actually, Professor Liu already asked part of my questions. So I, first of all, really appreciate your wonderful talk. But I was sensing in your talk this opposition between traditional Confucian values and social institutions versus Western discourses of rights and freedom. And the latter is adopted by the local activists. And it appears that you give a sense of how this stance of the local gay and lesbian activists might have been misguided, because what they're facing is really a traditional system. But then Professor Liu also mentioned that actually, like, the part of the major forces of opposition against gay marriage, or really just gay people or sexual minorities in general, is churches, and specifically evangelical churches that came from the United States. and the arguments they're using are American arguments against gay people in the States. And although they do adopt traditional rhetorics such as family, respectability, elders, and one of their arguments is, if gay people can get married, how are we going to call our parents and grandparents if they're no longer a mother and a father? Are we going to, is our whole system of the family going to be destroyed? They do ask those questions, which sound like they do adhere to local traditional values, but their entire stance comes from the West, and specifically from the United States, the homophobic churches in the States. So what I see in this battle, so instead of the sort of Western progressive ideals against local traditional values, instead of that, I see two Western forces fighting each other over the land of Taiwan, which is kind of a ridiculous image to think about. And local gay and lesbian activists have talked about how the specific nature of Taiwanese attitudes towards gay and lesbians is one of the traditional family values, is one of reticence and affective relationality. In other words, there are very specific local characteristics of how gay and lesbian people deal with the coming out issue or the getting into relationships. And what they do is trying to reach an affective relationship with their families, reach an understanding without aggressive confrontation, without express coming out, those Western habits of gay activism, in other words. So I actually think that for what's happening right now in Taiwan, this battle between two Western forces in Taiwan, is actually kind of maybe appropriate for the local gay and lesbian activists to adopt a Western tactic, because what they're fighting is really Western forces. But I do totally agree with you that an imagination of alternative routes is definitely necessary, because currently we're stuck between these forces that are not really relevant to how Taiwanese people live in the familial structures. So I believe the local scholars have already proposed some of these alternative tactics, including Professor Naifei Ding's work on reticent poetics, reticent politics, and which is what I just talked about how the building relationships and reaching a mutual understanding through non-aggressive confrontation. And I'm just curious about how you would think about that.
Alors il y a beaucoup de choses. Alors d'abord pour ce qui est de l'articulation entre la question des droits de l'homme et ce qu'on pourrait appeler une forme de libération sexuelle ou d'émancipation sexuelle. Donc effectivement il y a bien deux plans qu'on pourrait envisager, c'est-à-dire un plan concernant la manière dont les choses se sont déroulées en Occident pour aller vite, c'est-à-dire d'abord effectivement des luttes de libération sexuelle qui se sont enracinées dans des pratiques, ça c'est la première période, et une autre qui pour moi constitue une rupture où on est passé du côté d'une forme de revendication de droits que j'ai appelé tout à l'heure des droits prescriptifs, c'est-à-dire pas simplement une autorisation pour des relations entre personnes de même sexe, mais éventuellement là ça a pu déboucher sur le mariage entre personnes de même sexe, etc. Donc ça concerne l'Occident, où donc là il y aurait une sorte de, comment dire, de modification profonde de l'évolution des mouvements gays et lesbiens. Alors j'ai bien compris que pour Taïwan, la question des droits de l'homme pouvait jouer un rôle un peu différent, pouvait jouer un rôle en partie stratégique. Et de cette manière, on retrouve aussi cela en Occident lorsqu'il s'agit par exemple de réclamer l'égalité entre les gays et les hétéros, à travers l'accès au mariage. On pourrait se retrouver effectivement sur ce point-là. Alors par ailleurs, qu'il y ait des spécificités à Taïwan dans le mouvement gay et lesbien qui ait conduit à la revendication d'un mariage gay, ça aussi je l'avais suggéré et j'en suis conscient. Mais je pense en même temps qu'on on ne peut pas négliger non plus une sorte de dimension internationale qui n'épargne pas non plus Taïwan. Je veux dire par là que ce n'est pas nier les particularités, les spécificités des mouvements qui à Taïwan ont conduit aux revendications envers le mariage entre les personnes de même sexe. Ce n'est pas pour autant qu'il faille négliger, me semble-t-il, une sorte de mouvement international qui a affecté aussi, me semble-t-il, Taïwan comme n'importe quel autre pays ouvert sur le monde. Donc ça, je pense qu'il faut tenir à la fois les deux bouts. D'une certaine manière, oui, là, dans ce que vous dites, je retrouve effectivement un certain nombre d'intuitions que je pouvais avoir, à savoir qu'il est très difficile d'opérer de loin un diagnostic sur le phénomène de l'émergence dans le cadre d'une revendication d'un mariage gay à Taïwan. Et à partir de là, je suis bien conscient qu'il faudrait reprendre les choses dans le détail, voir comment éventuellement ça a été la voie choisie pour éviter un certain nombre de conflits, rendre possible aussi une lutte à l'encontre d'un certain nombre de puissances réactionnaires, les églises, etc. Ça, je le comprends et je pense que ça reste fondamentalement à étudier en profondeur. Alors sur ça, je reste plus que prudent, puisque là, je suis très heureux de ces discussions qui me permettent de cerner d'un peu plus près ce que j'avais juste intuitionné un peu, qui était effectivement un certain nombre de spécificités, sans pouvoir évidemment les nommer clairement. Donc ça demanderait effectivement plus de temps et que je revienne à Taïwan voir ça de plus près. Effectivement.
就是他是说，就是人权是某种程度上的性解放。他是说有两个层面来看，两个不同的方向来看。在西方的性解放是在实践上的，然后在权力的就是书写下来是有些造成某些深层的改变。那台湾的人权在同婚上是处理是有不太一样的就是方式在处理，在同性恋的婚姻跟异性恋的婚姻上是有不太一样的处理。当然就是说台湾的同婚可能也有一些国际方面上的特殊性那同性的婚姻在国际上也是对世界的某种的开放。那在同婚的这个思考跟这个诊断下，他是希望能够在细小的法律层面上来观察跟思考，法律是如何做什么样法律的选择，教堂的态度，他很高兴就是有在这方面的讨论，他也需要更多的时间，更多来台湾来思考这些问题。
我稍微补充一下，他就是说，当然我们台湾有台湾文化或是历史整个的社会历史整个的独特性，但是你不能够忽略或是否认，在这个 LGBT 的全球化的这个浪潮之下，台湾就像世界各地一样，都受到了这个全球化同性恋运动的影响。这点是我们就是同婚的诉求，在这个LGBT 的这个全球化的这个同性恋运动中，他所扮演的角色跟他的影响力，这是我们不能忽略的。那么他当然就是很高兴，就是 特别是刘老师你现在讲了之后，他才知道说基督教的对于这个反同的这个影响力，是他原本认知以为只有在我们的儒家文化或是什么这个整个价值规范、家庭价值规范之下才有的障碍。但是现在他比较了解是那个基督教